Hey, Soulmates, welcome to your Friday. And once again, thank you so much for joining us right here on FOXSOUL's Black Report. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordelai Corte. You know, each day we can't wait to get behind this desk to amplify Black voices and informed perspectives. We want you to know that as we take you on a journey across Black America, there's a lot of places that you can go for news that focus narrowly on our blues. But here at FOXSOUL's Black Report, we're here to share stories that reflect our rhythm and blues. That's why tonight we'll discuss voting issues ahead of the upcoming midterms, Karens still gone wild, funding for Black-owned businesses, and a 90-year-old black belt we want you to know. Now for our headlines. Slavery, if you can believe it, is still a concern in 2022. This election, 5 U.S. states will have voters decide whether to close loopholes in the 13th Amendment. Now, apparently, state prisons, how state prisons use forced labor by inmates is still up for debate. Criminal justice advocacy group Worth Rises is working as a part of a national effort to amend the 13th Amendment, which banned involuntary servitude except in the form of criminal punishment. Colorado leads the charge as the first state to add the amendment to its ballot in 2018, which voters agreed to change the language. Nebraska and Utah followed suit just 2 years later. Now Alabama, Louisiana, Oregon, Tennessee, and Vermont voters will make a similar decision this election day.
Very interesting. And when they use the word slavery, it's so alarming, even though we know that still lingers, if you will, in our day-to-day. But it's really this idea of involuntary servitude. So are we talking like historically maybe like chain gangs? Are we talking inmates? Now are we talking immigrants who sometimes get caught up in situations like this?
Absolutely. I mean, involuntary servitude, we're talking about folks that are in prison that really don't get paid any wages for their work. And so there are folks that are benefiting. The state is benefiting from their labor, their free labor, you know, but they're not getting paid at all. And so there is a movement afoot across the country to end involuntary servitude and say, okay, if you want people to work, you know, you should pay them a minimum wage. And so a few months ago, I had a similar conversation with California State Senator Sidney Kamlager, who's running for Congress right now.
Okay.
She had done some work in California to pass that amendment, but it was a no-go. It did not pass through the legislature. And so, you know, she's still going to work at it. And there are plenty of other states that are doing the work to end involuntary servitude in 2022.
Yeah, and I think that talk will continue. That debate will definitely continue. All right, according to a new poll, Black and brown voters are greater supporters of environmental justice than white counterparts. Climate change concerns like extreme weather, wildfires, and flooding are of top concern based on disproportionate impacts communities of color experience in the light of these type of events. 53% of Black voters surveyed agree that the matter is, quote, very important.
And we know environmental justice is extremely important, especially in places like Louisiana, still recovering from catastrophes like Hurricane Katrina and so many other hurricanes there. Yeah, and so speaking of Louisiana, you know, former Louisiana Senator Karen Carter Peterson is facing more retribution following her April resignation after pleading guilty to wire fraud in August in connection to her misuse of campaign funds to support her gambling addiction. The Louisiana Supreme Court moved to disbar Peterson this week as she awaits prison sentencing. Disbarment means that she's been expelled from the bar and no longer has the right to practice law.
So let's move from Louisiana now to Mississippi, as our thoughts are still with those in Jackson as they continue to navigate the drinking water crisis. The Environmental Protection Agency has now opened an investigation into any discrimination against the city's management of federal funds. Last month, the NAACP asked the EPA to look into whether state agencies breached a provision of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So lots of attention still as it continues, as the debate continues, as the investigation continues. And it really reminds me of Flint. And even though, you know, Flint may not be in the headlines, that issue still continues. Flint sits about 75 or so miles north of the city of Detroit here at our headquarters. And it is still an ongoing issue with the fallout effect, the health issues that still continue. So if you look at that and you measure what Jackson is up against, looking at Flint, there's still a lot of recovery to be done, a lot of investigating to be done, and a lot of tension that we still need to focus in the Jackson, Mississippi area. And speaking of attention, folks might have caught GMA, Michael Strahan, down at Jackson State to help kick off their homecoming. He's going to be hanging out with Coach Prime Time, and of course that sonic boom. And that's the kind of attention that I'm hoping continues to rest in Jackson, Mississippi, as we all support seeing them through this water crisis. And I hope in the midst of all that celebration, water talk is talked, if you will.
That's right. That's right. I mean, you know, talk about the tale of two cities. You know, on one hand, you know, we can celebrate the investment and the attention that Deion Sanders has attracted to Jackson State. But on the other hand, you know, we need a whole lot more attention.
Keep that same energy.
You know, on the Jackson water crisis,
That's right.
As our brothers and sisters still continue to navigate those challenges down there. And so from Mississippi back up here to Detroit, the Detroit area police want to buy your gun. That's right. Oakland County law enforcement is teaming up with a number of local churches to hold a gun buyback tomorrow. The goal? Simple. Get guns off the street. There are 4 drop-off locations, and you can walk away with a Visa gift card. It's $100 for a handgun. I never thought I'd ever be saying this, but $100 for a handgun, $200 for a long gun, and $300 for an assault rifle. You don't need registration, just an ID. You know, and it's important to note, you know, these gun buyback programs, you know, are you know, few and far between. In some places they're a little controversial, but you know, this is one intervention that Oakland County officials have invested in. It's a pilot program to do what the community is asking for. Get guns off the street. And so we'll continue to keep our eye on that.
We absolutely will. All right, coming up, a Karen being banned maybe, and the Black Panther Party's legacy is still alive. All of that coming up right here on Fox Soul's Black Report.